Dude, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Inside the Shell podcast. Um, it's a really good day today. I can't lie to you guys. Like I've had a good day. I'm been off school for a minute. I go back Wednesday, but I had a nice little break today, which was great. But I'm joined by someone who I had no idea existed, but because of my mom and who she works with and her coworkers, I get to have this amazing conversation today. Ben Iammartino, I've had a couple conversations with him back and forth, and I can kind of tell he's just a really stand up, wholesome, great guy. Um, and yeah, that's that. I don't really know too much about him, but we're gonna dive into some good stuff here today. So Ben, welcome, man.
Appreciate having me.
Of course, dude. So we always start off with the first little segment we do on the podcast, which is just quote of the week, something that you learned this week or something that you even stand by or like is a motto for you that you carry throughout your life. So, Ben, I know we talked about it a little bit before we started the call, but you wanted to tell everybody what's going on?
Yeah, so I have this tattoo in my body. This has been something that I've lived by even for this has been a while. It's vulnertus non victus, which is damaged, not defeated in Latin. So that's something that is, I think, incredibly important. Just to always remember, um, is that you're not always out of it. You may have low days, but you're not defeated. You can keep going, you can keep pushing forward,
Mm,
and there will always be better days ahead. And so that's always just what I live by. It's what I mean, it's tough so well that it's tattooed on my body. That's always just kind of been something that, I think is incredibly important to remember.
yeah. When did you get that tattooed on you?
It's
Has it been a minute?
probably a couple of years.
Wow. Okay.
It was probably a year or two after my diving accident, which I guess so I was in a diving accident 5 years ago. So I'm a C5 quadriplegic. I dove off of rocks and then it was just too shallow that day. So on a normal day, I would be perfectly fine. I'd done the dive plenty of times. I knew I had enough space.
Hmm.
I knew there were no rocks in the bottom. It's just too shallow. And that was that. So I've been a C5 quadriplegic going on about 5 years. June 5th, 2021 was when my accident was. I was 16 years old. It was the very first day of summer.
Hmm.
Wasn't even supposed to go anywhere. Just had one of my buddies call me. Was like, "Hey, I have extra baseball tickets." I went and I'm like, all right, you think nothing bad's gonna happen. Enjoyed a game. We were like front row, which I still don't know how I sat at those seats some days because those were nice
Hmm.
and they were free. So that's the best part. I mean, it is
Oh, they were free.
free
That's
front
nice.
rows. Yes. And it was incredibly hot. So we were like, all right, let's go to the beach. Went to the beach. My plan was to dive once, come right back to the beach, and um, just play some football and call it that. And that is not at all how it went.
Wait, so you plan to dive? You just plan to dive once, and that's when it
Just
happened?
once. Yep.
Unbelievable.
And so this is obviously like something the very first year was like obviously there's a lot of things going on. And
Yeah.
you're trying not to beat yourself up about everything. There were many, many reasons I could have turned back that day. So first off, there was absolutely no one in the water. I was the only person in the water. So I ran so you have to like walk down a hill and then get to the beach. So we walk down the hill, get to the beach. I sprint down the beach into the water, and this water is freezing cold. I mean, it's
Usually, yeah.
yeah, Lake Michigan and June 5th. Like it's freezing cold. So that's obviously like in your head, like a year after this all happened, you're like, could have turned back then. Could have
Yeah.
turned back then. And then I got to the rocks. It's like maybe, I don't know, 10 yards out, maybe 20. And so got to the rocks, slipped once. So then that's another space. You're like, damn, could have turned back then. Could have turned back then.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm stubborn, so obviously I just kept going and,
Yeah.
you know, dove off of the same spot that I dove off plenty other times and then hit the sand. Like I said, just too shallow. Everything went white. Everything started raining. So like if you could imagine like you're watching a movie and like a grenade goes off and like
Yeah.
the movie like
The
all
screen
the
goes white.
ringing. Yeah,
Yeah, the
like
ringing, the screen goes white. Yeah.
that's what was going on when I hit. And so I was underwater. I don't know for how long, but quite a while. And there's a lot of different things in that, split second that still kind of sits with me. Before my accident, I always had a lot of mental health issues, and I still do. If it's depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, like that was always there. And so when I'm in the water, I'm face down, not able to do anything, and I'm like, I'm done. There's nothing's saving me. I'm not doing anything. I'm just here.
Mhm.
And so I completely stopped breathing. I was like, this is it. Stop breathing. Remember that vividly. And then after talking with the person that saved my life for a couple of months after, I swallowed so much water that he saw it from the beach. Ran in, got me, flipped me over. And then first thing I told him was that it was going to be okay. And then they got me onto the beach and I was surrounded by about like 20 people. A couple of people, I mean, like I was flopping like a fish. I mean, I'm 16 years old. You have no clue what's going on. So I was like flopping my head, like flailing what I could. At that point, I was really only able to move my arms and very weak, but I was doing what I could while people were also asking me, like, can you feel this? Can you feel that? I mean, obviously, this is all happening in a split second, and you have so many things going on. So I was just telling everyone to tell my parents I loved them, to my sister, I love them, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I still remember, like, laying there lifeless and then seeing my parents, walk up. And, like, my mom was trying to hold it in and be strong. And
Mhm.
you could see that, like, there's obviously a lot going on behind that, and then my dad just he couldn't handle it, which is completely fair. So there's obviously a lot, and I mean, I just said that in 10 minutes, but like that's probably 20 minutes of the experience, and
Yeah.
now since it's been 5 years, and there's obviously a lot of other things that go along with all of that.
Right.
Yeah,
Dang, dude. That's I can't imagine going through anything like that, that traumatic at least. I mean,
yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
I think that's where the perspective really starts to kick in. And because this is my second trauma. So like this is there's a long so when I was 5 years old, I
Mhm.
also have a third degree and fourth degree burn. So I climbed a counter, knocked a pot of boiling water over, slipped into it, and burned my foot. So I also at a very young age dealt with trauma as well. So obviously it's a completely different and this is something I realized in inpatient as well. When I was an inpatient for my injury
Mhm.
was it's like you can pull different lessons from all of it. And like the difference is like when you're 5 years old, like you understand what's going on, or you
Yeah.
don't understand what's going on. It's just like you're dealing with it and you're there. You don't truly understand what's going on, but at
Right.
16, you understand what's going on. But
Mm.
the same thing is like the resilience is there regardless
Yeah.
because you
Mhm.
had to deal with it. I mean,
Right.
so there's so much resilience from early childhood in my life that like it was easy for me to just constantly go. And
Mm.
also like that's the big thing with stuff like this is you can't imagine it until you truly live it and then you're like this is a completely new world.
Yeah.
And
For
that's where
sure.
it's like, and that's why I think it's important to do like have these conversations and do all of that stuff is like, you know,
Mhm.
there it's very hard to talk about this stuff, but I think it's also very important.
Oh,
And
100%.
it's important because people don't understand what it's like, and so you need people to talk about it.
Yep, yep.
And like some of the, I'm in a research group, and my research group has bonded over the fact that I talked about all of my accident in like the very first day.
Mhm,
Like we've now been very bonded because of that. And because it's now that I've started talking about this, it's also you start seeing things in a different lens as well. You
mhm.
start seeing things for like the easiest thing is, I can't get into buildings now. I mean, there are many buildings on the street that I live on that I can't get in.
Yeah,
There are steps, there are lack of push buttons. I mean, that's all there. You don't,
yeah.
but like you would never see it unless you're actually living in it or have had a conversation or an interaction with someone and with it, you know? And so
Mhm.
it's like there's a lot of different intricacies with it. And that's just having conversations. And that's also just it doesn't matter if they've experienced, major trauma. Just having a conversation with a human, you can learn a lot,
Yeah,
So that's the other thing about it too.
yeah. Um, I will read my quote real quick, and then we'll kinda get into this conversation because it's already starting, and I don't want it to I don't wanna, like, segue away from it because it's already getting, really good, really deep. But my quote is from this book I'm reading right now. I've said it on the podcast 2 other times, my last 2 episodes. It's by Alfred L. McMichael, Sergeant Major. It's called Leadership and Achieving Life-Changing Success from Within. I was reading it today, and I had this banger quote pop out at me, and I underlined it, and it said, "Good isn't good enough when excellence takes only a step or 2 more." So, to me, it's like, all right, well, there are so many people in this world that are good, and they're good enough, right? But there are select few that actually take that step or several steps to get, one more rep in the gym or one more mile or, one more job interview, one more, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's like the extra steps you take to become this best version of yourself or a better version of yourself. Cause I feel like, we're never going to reach our best self. Like it's honestly impossible. And we're just constantly, people are constantly chasing that best version. So to me, it's like a constant pursuit of that journey, and it's the 1 or 2 steps that really make the difference whether you're good and it like what separates you from what's being good and what's being excellent or achieving excellence. So that was my quote of the week. Kind of just hit me like a truck, honestly. I was like, dang, scrolled on my phone for 20 minutes today. I'm like, you know Michael Jordan wouldn't do that. Of course, Michael Jordan, doesn't probably have a phone, or he has a flip phone or something. But yeah, that's what I had for my quote. I guess going back to what we were talking about, I'm interested in what your transition was like. You said it was like somewhat easy because you've already had trauma, but like what was the transition like, like
Um,
mentally? I feel
yeah.
like it's so hard to like flip that switch. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, like, there's nothing, it's not easy. I
Yeah.
mean, you live life as an able bodied person for 16 years and it completely
Mhm.
changes, you know? So I had to learn how to dress myself. I had to learn how to get out of bed. I had to learn how to get into bed. I had to learn how to just push a wheelchair. I
Mhm.
mean, so what it all looked like for the first 2.5 months was I spent 2.5 months in inpatient rehab. So I did
Okay.
PT and OT about 6 times a week. And that was legitimately just like, here's your new body. You have to start learning how to figure it out. So it's like I said, trying to figure out how to change yourself, how to just live your new life. And
Mhm.
that's the thing that's obviously you're trying to understand it physically, but you're also trying to understand it mentally as well.
Yeah.
And I think it only really started kicking in for me mentally once I got home.
Mm.
Because the first 2.5 months, that was purely just physical. It's like, okay, this is what you gotta do. I mean,
Yeah.
I did a lot of like they had a lot of walking that they did because so also you're also working with science because you have a finite amount of time to gain the most amount of function back. So
Mm.
I think it's like about 2 years, like the cutoff is like the your first 2 years are your best chance at gaining mobility, like legs working, fingers working.
Yeah.
So like that's the first part is like you're taking as much time to get as much function as you possibly can.
Mm.
While also just learning how to be independent, how to, live on your own. So that's like the first 2.5 months were really just physical. Um, I want to say. And then like obviously that's I don't totally remember what all those sessions looked like. I know that
Mhm.
I was, pushing heavy, and just trying to do whatever you can. And then once I got home, that was when the mental switch really started needed to get kicked in. Uh, and I think like to go back to the quote, like it's always just constantly moving forward,
Yeah.
like especially in the situation that I'm in, like there's nothing I can do. I can't go back. So I just have to live every day like it's my last. And that's a completely different, and that's like you really start to understand that
Mhm.
like I really could not be like
Like
there's a
life is
chance that I'm not
fragile.
here. Like
Right.
that's the first thing. But that obviously took me years to actually truly understand. And so
Right.
the first year of my accident was really just like, let's figure out what this all looks like. You're lost, you're confused, you're trying to understand how to live life physically, but then also like, I've been living as an able-bodied person, and now I have to
Mhm.
deal with a completely new perception of myself. How do I see
Right.
myself? Do I love myself the way that I always thought I would be able to? And
How
so
did
there's like,
you
going,
sorry to cut you off there, but how did you deal with like for me, if I was ever in your shoes and that happened to me, like I would be in such a depressive state that I couldn't do able body things, right? And I'd get frustrated. I would be like mad at myself. I would probably put all this pressure on me, like, if I can't get to this or get to this point, like I'm a failure, or why did this happen to me? I'd be questioning everything, right? So, how did you deal with that, like, frustration? I bet you had
so
to learn how to do it, but how did you get to that point where
it's
you are kind of okay with it?
it's something it's something that I still struggle with.
Yeah.
There's nothing that will change that. It's
Mhm.
frustrating because I've had life be much easier, but also what other option do you have? You have two
Yeah.
options. You keep going and try and figure it out, or you do nothing about it. But like what life is that? You know? I don't wanna that's like that's what helped me
Yeah.
was be like, well, what other option do you have? You know? And I think the big thing too is I think you need a purpose.
Yeah.
That's the big thing is once you find that purpose, everything becomes a lot easier. It's not easy to deal with it, but it makes it easier.
Yeah. Something
And
to live
so like,
for.
yeah, and it's still something that's hard. I would
Yeah.
love to just get into whatever building I can, but I can't.
Mhm.
And so you have to appreciate what you can and live life to the fullest,
Right.
you know? And unfortunately, like I think a lot of it, especially like the first year or two, a lot of it is just trial and error. I mean,
Mm.
there's no guideline of like, this is what you have to do to get to where you want to go.
Right.
There's no nothing. I mean, you can have conversations with people in similar situations, but it's not the same. You still have to figure it out for yourself. And
Mhm.
so that's the main thing, right? Is the first year and probably 2 years, it was just figuring out things, trying things. I was lucky that I had good support systems around me. I mean, my parents are awesome. I was in PT and OT, and so
Yeah.
the biggest thing was like, just do what you can.
Yeah.
Like I still want to live my fullest life. I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it takes a lot more extra work, especially the first 2 years of my accident. But,
Mhm.
you got to put the work in to get to where you want.
Right. I think that that frustration cannot just be, like, taken in your sense. I think, like, a lot of people listening, let's say, like, whether it's an injury or just, like, life struggles, I mean, they can relate to that frustration piece, whether it is an injury or not, you know?
Yeah.
And eventually that mindset starts to shift like what you were talking about.
Yeah. And it's like, my situation is the extreme situation.
Right.
Like the population of people with spinal cord injuries is so small.
Mhm.
It's an extreme situation, but the lessons that you learn from it can be applied to all of life. You have one life. It's a reminder that it can be ended in seconds. And so you
Yeah.
have to be like, okay, what can I do tomorrow? Or what can I do today? Not even
Right.
tomorrow. What can I do today to live my best life?
Mhm.
Like, sure, everything's not great, but like, hey, we are still alive. You
Mhm.
know, when people ask me how I'm doing, I don't say like I'm good. I just say I'm alive because it's also a reminder to myself that like, hey, even if it's not great, even if it's hard,
I'm still
there's
kicking.
still so many precious things about life that you have to
Yep.
enjoy.
Yep. Yep.
So that's also the other aspect. You just keep going forward,
Yeah.
because again, you have two options. You either keep going forward and keep trying to figure it out, or you do nothing about it. And you yourself have to make the decision of like, okay,
Mhm.
what do I choose? Like, if you want to get into a gym for the first time, like, what do you either do nothing about it, or you finally make the decision to be like, okay, I need to get into the gym.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
like you and I have both had experiences going into the gym for the first time. It's
Oh yeah.
scary. It's intimidating. You don't know what
Mhm.
you're going through. You don't know what you're dealing with. But also, like, you either it's probably going to be the best thing that happens to you. You
Mhm.
don't know. You have to just try it. And that's the other thing. It's like, do you want to live your life just, wishing you did things, or you just gonna try it and be like, do what
Right.
you can,
Living with no
you know?
regrets. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Um, I actually, when you were talking there, it reminded me of a clip I saw. It was like the basic 9 to 5 loop. I think that was what it was called. I saw a video on it, and it was literally like the guy. There's this guy in this YouTube video, and he lives the same life over and over again, like the same 9 to 5, and he's like trapped in this like societal bubble. And like one day he wakes up, like he physically just like opens. It looks like he's opening his eyes, and he like throws papers everywhere. He like push over his computer and it's like his little cubicle, and he like runs out the door and he starts like running. It was almost like a Forrest Gump moment where he's like starts running around the world. But I saw that and it reminded me of what you were talking about. How like you can't just go to your 9 to 5. You can't have the same schedule. Like have some variety. Go out and experience things that you have never experienced before. Because I'm sure in your situation, I mean, before you got hurt, you were able to do all these great things, and now you see like how precious life is. And even though you have this injury, you have this issue, who cares, right? You're still kicking, you're still believing in who you are and what you want to do, and you have that purpose for your life. And same thing with anybody else listening here. If you have an injury, that doesn't mean you lose your part of your identity, even though it might be rooted in something else. Try to find a new hobby. Try to find something new that you can experience, and you can, you know, that could maybe be your new passion. Maybe you can go after that and achieve that instead. So I really like what you talked about there, dude.
And I think it even goes, this is something that I really started because, I work out the same. It's just figuring out new ways to do things.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same, but you're still doing the same thing. It's just
Right.
redefining what you know. Like, I
Mhm.
can still go to the gym. I've gone surfing. I've gone kayaking. I mean, so like, what's the difference? You're doing the same thing. It just looks different. That's all it
You've gone
is.
surfing? Wait, hold on. You've gone surfing?
I've gone
Dude,
surfing.
I have wanted to go surfing forever, and I've never been able to go do it.
I
That's
have gone
awesome.
surfing. I've gone
That's
kayaking.
sick.
I have crawled a 40-yard turf. Like, you know, I never thought that I would be into public speaking, and here I
Yeah.
am, and I'm in the middle
Mhm.
of a like, I love public speaking. I love advocacy.
Right.
Never
Mhm.
thought that I would be that way before my accident, but, like, you
Mm.
redefine things, and, like, that's with anything. Even if you are just anything happens, you just redefine what life looks like. Life doesn't
Yeah.
end. Life keeps going if you like, that's where, again, you have 2 options. You keep going, you try and figure it out, you do
Yeah.
nothing about it. But, like, you know, what fun is just doing nothing about it and just letting
Mm.
it all pass you by?
Yeah.
Because then at
I
some
like
point you're
that.
gonna, yeah. Because then, like, what? Like, you go look 20 years down the line, you're like, wish I could have done more, but you can't go back. Can't change it.
Yeah. I like the way you discuss that because it's almost like there's no other option. There's no other option for you, and just like everybody else listening, like there's no other option. You can stay complacent. You can accept the situation as is and go, well, I can't change it. I guess I can't do anything about it. But there is a certain situation where you're like, well, you know what? What if I try this? What if I redefine, reshape myself and try to do either the same thing or a different thing, but I just tweak it,
Yep.
right?
Or just, it's like you're doing the same thing, just in different ways. Like, it doesn't matter how you do it. The end goal is what matters. Like,
Mhm.
who cares if someone helps you dress? Who cares if you have to lift your legs in a weird way to dress yourself? Who cares? As long as
Mhm.
you get dressed, who cares? So it's
Yeah.
like, it's, you have to redefine the things around you. It's not going to change for you. So you just
Yeah.
have to try new things. And
So you mentioned, going into the gym
mhm.
back we're like backtracking a little bit. But when when did exercise become like important for you again? Cuz did you find the gym before your injury and go back to it, or did you go to the gym after your injury?
So the gym has been a part of my life forever.
Okay.
I mean, my dad's always been in the gym. And, I've always been to his gyms. I did a lot of just like heavy lifting, and, I worked out 6 times a week before my injury. I
Wow.
was lifting heavy weight. I was eating 6 meals a day.
Wow.
Like, this was stuff I was passionate about. And so that was the hard thing, is like, something like this happens, something you love that is so physical.
Mhm.
You're like, how can I do this again?
Yeah.
And now I mean, I can go to a CrossFit gym and, you know, um, I can work out the same. I
Mhm.
know someone in a wheelchair who has cerebral palsy, and he is the 9-time world's strongest seated man.
Holy
Yes,
crap.
Tom Miazga. M-I, Miazga. He was in the '08 Beijing Paralympic Games. And then was a teacher and was like, I want to get stronger. Just went into a gym and is now the 9-time world's strongest seated man. So, like, that's where it's like, again, we all can work out the same way. It
Mhm.
just looks different. So that was the main thing for me, is
Yeah.
working out's always been a part of my life. It's just I
Yeah.
had to figure out what working out in this new body looked like.
Mm. So what did your I mean, obviously they're going to look really different, but could you compare how different your workouts look from when you first started working out to now?
I mean, it's pretty hard. It's like, so it's like, if let's say you're doing a clean, like, you're just
Yeah.
doing a clean from your hip to your chest to your shoulders. You're taking the legs out of it, but it's just your arms doing the work, you
Mhm.
know? So it's like, that's the best. It's, you're just taking the legs out of it, you know? As long as it's, I mean, it's kind of hard. I'm trying to like figure out how to explain this, but
No,
it's
you're
also a
you're
little
good. You're good.
it's a little easier to see too. But
Yeah.
also it looks different for every person. That's the other thing too, right? Is I can explain this for a wheelchair, but it also looks completely somewhat different if you're a one arm amputee. and you just
Yeah.
have to figure out what it looks like for you. And so it's for me as a wheelchair user, it's just taking the legs out of it, and my
Mhm.
arms are doing the work. So it's everything
Mhm.
from um, hip to chest, hip to shoulder, hip to above head. Um,
Yeah. Arm day every day.
and also like, do you see something? I think what helped me is like thinking it's just the anatomy and like, oh, if this is working this, what's something that I can still do that would work that same muscle group? And so
Mm.
like there's obviously things in the gym that I can't do, but you can adapt it. You can make it look different. And you can do things that would be equivalent, even if it just looks different, you know? So there's a lot of different intricacies, and some of that is just doing it for long enough that you kind of just know what you're doing. But there are also other
Yeah.
models that you can look at.
Yeah. We talk a lot about mental health on here, and that's why I find your story so fascinating because I know in my shoes and people who might, other than me, put theirself in your shoes, it's like I feel like I might not have the strength to do what you do. And I think what's so important is the mental behind the physical injury that you had. So I guess I kind of want you to go a little bit more in depth of kind of like how your mental health was, and maybe you could tie in a little bit of how your physical training has helped your mental health too, because I'm sure tying the physical and the mental together, they do help each other and they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think this is something that I always say. This is something that honestly sometimes shocks people is
Mm,
my accident is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Um, Before my accident, I was not in a good mental space.
mm,
I was depressed, I was anxious, I was worried about tomorrow, I was worried about yesterday. I was not in a good mental space.
yeah.
Um, and what my accident did was force me to look at things in a different way. It forced me to be like, wow, you really like have one life. And like that's something you always hear is like you have to live your life like you can't see tomorrow.
Hmm.
And for me, I just was forced into that role. So that's like, and that's obviously like that takes a while to learn.
Yeah.
The first year, I'm like, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just trying to understand everything. And this takes, it probably took me 2, 3 years to truly understand. But what helped me was like, I don't have another life. This is my life. Like, this is my life. And I would rather live this life trying to do everything I can than, you know, do nothing about it. And so it taught me how to appreciate what I have.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Um, because that's something that like it's easily like you can easily take life for granted. Um,
Oh yeah. People do it every day. I
and
do it every day.
yeah, and that was something that I did a lot. I took life for granted, and I just was forced into the role where it was like, wow, I need to start to appreciate this because you start to realize that like, wow, my life could have been ended like in seconds. Like,
Yeah.
who knows? And so I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is I was just forced into the position and I just had to learn the lesson in an extremely hard way.
Yeah.
But it's also completely changed my life. And that's also like I learned it in the extreme way, but I think this is also where these conversations are important is it's a reminder for everyone that life is precious and you have to appreciate it.
Hmm.
Like you have to appreciate what you have. You have to appreciate what you still have before it's gone. And that's obviously like an extremely hard thing to start to put into an action. And so that's where I was a little lucky to where it's just forced on me.
Yeah.
I say a little lucky. Obviously, it's hard to be in that position, but I learned the lesson for good. And then obviously that once you start getting over that, everything else starts getting a little bit easier.
Is that where the physical training, the lifting came back, and that's kind of where it's kind of pulled you out of that hole. Would you say?
Yeah, because that's obviously still a massive coping mechanism for me.
Oh yeah.
Like, it always will be. And so I know, like, that's my backbone. Is if like something's really going on and like I need to get some stuff out, I'm going to the gym. And all of that is easier, once that mental stuff is figured out. And I
Yeah.
think the big thing for me was just learning that I could still do it. Once I learned that I could still do it, everything kind of started falling back in place. But I think the biggest thing was the mental side of it. Like, obviously, it helps to have the physical side there, but once you learn the mental side, the physical side becomes easier.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree. I've talked about it before on here, but just my journey to the gym. But it was a coping mechanism. A lot of people find coping mechanisms in many different ways. A lot of people is like turning, like a serious moment into comedy or, things like that. But for us specifically, it could be the gym. And a lot of people kind of go that route too. It's kind of why I started running. There's a quote that I read recently. It was like David Goggins talks about why he runs a lot. He says, "Not because I like it." He says, "It's because I kinda just clear my head when I run." He's like, Nothing's there to bother me. I don't have to think about anything. I just kinda go." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what the gym does for me." Like, sometimes when I run though, like, my brain will be like, "Dude, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this." For me, it's like you go into the gym, you have all these issues, you have all these problems, you know, and then you work through it. It's literally like working through each emotion that you have coming out of that day, or if you're even if you're going in the gym in the morning, like that to me, I don't work out in the morning. I run in the morning. It's technically a workout, but going to the gym in the morning, that will release like the endorphins, right? After you work out and you're like, okay, well, I woke up, I did something hard. Now the rest of the day is gonna be easy. Now the rest of the day I can kind of have a calmer mindset. I can kind of be like, okay, well, I already did something hard where a lot of people didn't, and it's got to feel good. So that's something you can also take with you for that. But for the mental piece, man, I mean, it's so incredible because you don't think about like for when I started my journey, it wasn't about I'm angry at this person, I'm mad at this person. He's like, at first it was just like, I just want to be back. I want to be back. I want to be big. I want to be jacked, you know? And then once I didn't make the basketball team and all this, then the emotions kind of spiraled in. And I was like, well, now I got something that I got to prove. I got to prove to somebody that I'm worth something. When in reality, I was already worth something, but I was more or less proving it to myself. And I think a lot of people do that today. And I think you did that too when you were kind of in that state where you're like, well, I had just had this accident and I don't really know who I am right now, but I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to figure it out. Now that I'm kind of back to what at some level I am able to lift, I am able to move my upper half. It's like, well, God gave me my upper half. I'm going to do everything I can to use it.
Yeah, and I think also in my situation, like, workouts can be like, it depends on how you frame it. Like, for me, for the first like 2 years of my life, workouts of my disabled life, like, workouts were just trying to figure out how to put my clothes on,
Yeah.
and that's
I'm
just
sure they were workouts. Yeah.
just they were all of my PT sessions, all my OT sessions. Those are all workouts.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of looking at it. And so it's like, even if you're not doing those physical things, there's always lessons that we can take from
Hmm.
life that
Yeah.
are just bettering us. And that's where, like, I was just kind of thrust into the position to kind of start understanding that. And that's where, like, again, some of these conversations are important to have, because then it gets other people to start thinking about it. And it's like, okay, like, the big thing is like, what can you do right now, today, to make the best life for yourself? Like,
Yeah.
what is one small actionable thing you can do that is going to make your life better? And it
Hmm.
doesn't even, like, I think that's another thing. It's like everyone wants it to be this big, massive thing, but like, sometimes we can't do that. Like, sometimes for me, just putting a sock on was what got me through. because it's a small thing that I achieved, and like small things become massive things. And
Yeah.
so you have to start off with like, okay, so what are some small things you can start to achieve? And they'll build to bigger things. And so that's the other aspect of it is you
Yeah.
need to like start thinking about that part of life. And it's like, okay, what can I improve today? Like what can I start working on today
Right.
that will get me to where I want to go?
Yep. And that's just consistency. That's just staying consistent. And consistency, I feel like takes way more than just motivation. Because motivation comes and goes. We all know that. We've all heard that. And it's the discipline that actually truly matters. So going through what you went through, like what does discipline look like for you right now on a daily basis?
Um, well, it will always, even discipline, like that will always, we're not perfect. You
Right.
know, we're humans, we make mistakes. And so, like, we're not always going to be the most disciplined human. It's just doing what you can, you know? So I meal plan everything I can. Like, that's me staying disciplined. I try and eat as healthy as I can while doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, there are days where that doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
And so that's the other aspect is we need to give ourselves grace. We can't always be disciplined. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna miss things. And so that's the other thing, you know? And so, like, obviously, it's important to have discipline, but you also have to
Yeah.
remember it's everything in moderation.
I got a question. Just how would you tell somebody, let's say you're talking to a perfectionist or something, and they get really caught up on the little tiny details of things like, oh, I didn't do this right. I didn't do this perfectly. I missed 15 calories on my meal plan or whatever it is. How would you tell that perfectionist that like to have some grace, accept the reality that nothing is perfect?
So I am a perfectionist at heart. Like, I want
Same.
everything
Same.
perfect.
Same. That's why I'm asking.
I think nothing I'm trying to give you, like, what was your question again?
Just like, what advice would you
Like,
give
what advice for a perfectionist? Just to
for a
have grace.
perfectionist? Yeah, like for them not to focus on the bad too much.
I think life is so hard. You know, that's like, life is so hard. And so that's where those small wins are huge, right? We can't be perfect. And so we have to try and make life as easy as we can because life is hard. I think, like, obviously this is easier said than done because this took me years to truly understand. And I'm even like while I'm talking about it, still trying to give like the best.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And I think it goes back to appreciating what you have.
Hmm.
You know, I'm like I'm trying not to spiral over here in thoughts.
Dude, please, dude, it's okay.
I think,
You can smile on the podcast. I think smiling is allowed.
I know it's like that's such a complex thing because
I
we
know. Yeah.
want it perfect. And I think it's like remembering if it's not perfect, like what is going to change? You know, some days,
Hmm.
like our best effort is what matters. And it's like, sure, I was over calories, but like, okay, did I still at least get some of the calories in? Did I at least like maintain, you know, like let's say if you're focusing on protein, like did I at least get
Yeah.
close? Like, did you
Hmm.
put effort in? And that's what you have to rely on. Is like there's only so much effort that you can put into a day. There's so much energy, and you just have to do what you can. So that's where it's like again, you need to and that takes a long like that's a long process.
Yeah, for
And
sure. And there's different aspects to it too. I guess what helps me, like I always think of like Thomas Edison, for example. Thomas Edison is like known for failing a lot in order to get the light bulb. I'm pretty sure it's like 2,774, I think, was the number. How many times he failed to create the light bulb, to create this energy source, right? To create light. Um, And I also think of like I'll have this up here in like because I had to look it up. Henry Ford, even like his business failed twice before he could get Ford working as an actual like car making business, right? So, in other words, the only way to get to your best self or like a better version, right? What we're kind of talking about here is you have to fail. You cannot be perfect. There is no way people get to this. Like, people make a, like, Henry Ford didn't make Ford the first time doing it. Thomas Edison failed 2,774 times before he had success. So it's like, and that's just two examples. You read a book on anybody's life story, they've had it hard. They've gone through trials. They've experienced loss. They've experienced hardship. Like, they have failed. And that's the point. Like, people are like, I used to be like, I failed. I can't, I did bad on this test. I guess I'm a failure. No, you're not. You're only a failure if you refuse to try again. That's where, yeah, go ahead. Go
And
ahead.
it's because while you're saying that, like, this is getting me thinking, it's like, okay, sure, you didn't get to where you want, but like, take a look at what you just did. Learn from what you just did. Make it better
Mhm.
the next time. That's the other thing. Like,
Yep.
if you didn't get your macros in, like, take a step back and be like, okay, what's gonna help me get there the next time? And it's just constantly refining that. And so we will never be perfect. We as humans are not perfect. And that's where you constantly have to take a step back and be like, okay, well, how can I just get this much better? And
Yep.
then once you fail, it's again doing the same thing. How can you get this much better? And it's
Yep.
constantly evolving. That's the
Mhm.
big thing. It's like life is giving us lessons and we have to decipher them. We have
Mhm.
to be like, okay, how can I apply this to life? And then if that doesn't work, what can I learn from it? What can I do
Mhm.
again to try and make it better? You know, like
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to dress myself in a day because I'm perfect. It took a lot of work, a lot of failure. And it's
Mhm.
like, take a step back. What did I learn? You know?
Yeah.
And that's the big thing is that's obviously very hard, but
Mhm.
you learn more from failing than you do succeeding,
Yeah.
you know? Like, because then you start to see things that like maybe I could do this differently.
Mhm.
Maybe I could take a different angle. Maybe I can I mean, there's so many different and it depends on how you look at things and what you're doing. It's like, don't focus on being perfect, focus on learning, you know? Like,
Yeah.
that's my big thing is because, like, again, like I said, we're not going to be perfect. So learn from what you can and
Yeah.
then continue evolving. And it's
Right.
just about getting one step closer, and just refining.
Yep. I like that you said refining. It's almost like sharpening our sword, almost kinda. I think the most beautiful thing about life, like one of the most beautiful things is, like you said, we aren't perfect. God made us not perfect because he wanted us to try to get to a better version. Like, the best way I could explain this is how I worked through perfectionism and that whole idea as a whole. If you strive to be perfect all the time and you become perfect, and let's say you are perfect, you try to become perfect, you are perfect, whatever. What else? What's next? What is there to do? There's no, you've run out of your one ticket, well, your one mission. It's done. Now what? So the most beautiful thing I think is there's always something to work on. Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. There's always some area of your life that's gonna need work. And that's okay. Because once you work on that, oh, guess what? Something else is lacking. Something else in your life could be going better or in a better direction than it is. And I think that's the most beautiful thing is that we can constantly keep working on any aspect that we choose.
Yeah. And it's not settling, it's just evolving as humans. None of us had it figured out. I mean, I think we'd be fools to say that we had it figured out.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to do what you can. And sometimes doing what you can is better than doing nothing,
Oh yeah.
you know?
It's like getting to the finish line. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, creep. I think that's the you can. I think creeping is. I could be wrong here. I think creeping is not using your legs. I think crawling is. No, no. Crawling is without your legs. Creeping is with your legs, right? I think so.
Can
Whatever.
say with confidence and go with it, I guess.
Anyway, I was trying to like. I don't know who said that quote. I was trying to throw it out there, but basically saying if you can't walk, or if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, get in a
Is
wheelchair and start going. You know, like it's never ending.
there's always steps that you can do.
Yeah,
It's just figuring out where you are and just learning from everything that you've been through and apply it.
yeah, for sure. Trying to give you some more questions off the dome.
Yeah, and this is hard. Like there's so many I could have hour conversations about all of this,
Yeah.
you know.
What are some? Well, I got one. I think this might be good. What are some barriers you still face today that people actually like? You're not. They can't actually see some of these barriers besides like the maybe the basic stuff you were talking about earlier. Like it's hard for you to go in certain buildings and put on your clothes.
Some people don't see that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still something that I face, you know, just going to school. Like people still don't see that some days. And I'm the one that constantly has to fight it. I'm the one that
Mm,
has to advocate for it.
mm.
So like just because it's there and it seems obvious doesn't mean that people actually see it or think about it. And so you constantly have to advocate. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for the situation you're in. And that takes a lot of energy. And so, like, that's something that's hard is it's a systemic thing that, like, some days there's only so much you can do, but, like, you still can't access it.
Hmm.
So, like, that physical stuff, like, some people don't see it. And, like,
Yeah.
you know, so, like, even if you might see it after having the conversation that we've had, some people still don't. I think there's obviously I think mentally there's a lot. Disability is lonely. It's isolating. It can be you can feel alone
Yeah.
because it's so rare that
Hmm.
someone has exactly what you're going through. So that is something that people won't be able to see unless, like, again, someone has a conversation about it. But that is a very real aspect of it. And so and I think, like, with that, we go back to the same conversation of, like, do what you can, you know? I mean, just because the problem's there, there's still so much to enjoy.
I think there's a difference between being lonely and then being alone, for
Yeah.
sure, though.
No, there is. But, like, if like, the only person that will truly understand what it's like to live with a spinal cord injury is someone with a spinal cord injury.
Hmm.
And that's where it is alone some days. You can
Yeah.
be surrounded by people and still feel alone.
Yeah. Yep. Felt that before.
And I still do on a daily basis. It's like there are people in my life that would never understand what it's like to live, with a spinal cord injury and
Yeah.
let alone quadriplegia.
Right.
So yes, there is a difference, but it's like both things are felt with a disability.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think like that's also just anything with life. I mean, we all feel alone some days. We all feel lonely some days. And that can't stop us, you know? Like you feel alone and lonely one day, but then you might be loving life the next. It can't
Yeah.
stop you. Yeah. Trying to think of other things, but like those are the main things that like really come to mind.
Hmm.
Obviously, like some days you still get the feeling of like, do people even see me as human some days?
Wow.
That's not
Yeah.
that's not a thought that I have regularly, but it is thoughts that
Hmm.
I've had. Like some people don't know how to handle people with disabilities. Some people don't know how to have those conversations.
Right.
And
That.
honestly, again, going to that, it's like just treating people as human. Like, who
Yeah.
cares if someone's in a wheelchair? You're just a human, you know?
Right.
But that is stuff that, like, especially at our age range, like, you go to 20-year-olds who may not even understand what's going on in their head, let alone
Mhm.
understanding such a complex thing that's going on.
For sure.
They just don't know how to handle it,
Yeah.
So that's obviously stuff that you don't see. Ultimately, it just comes down to treating people as humans. It's what it is,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
So,
Yeah.
adding on to that question there, have people ever, like you said that people can't sometimes, like, understand what you're going through, and especially if they're not in the right frame of mind, they can't really even comprehend what you're going through. So, have you ever had a situation where, like, people say something with good intentions, but, like, kind of annoys you? Is that kind of a weird question?
Um, so no. Um,
Okay, that's good.
like, especially with me, I'm a very patient and like understanding person.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's very clear to understand when someone asks something and they just don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like you just don't understand. And like, it's
Yeah.
now my time to let you know why
Mhm.
that's not okay.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll give you like there was someone they were in a group. So I was sitting in a group with two other people in wheelchairs, me. And there was someone that came up to us and asked us for an assignment. It's like it's like they asked us if they could push us. Like we were just sitting, just having a conversation, and they just walked up to us and was like, "Excuse me, can we push you?" And so like that's an insane
That's
thing.
crazy.
And so like what goes through my head when stuff like that happens is you have to let them know why that's not okay.
Yeah.
In this case, it was just they were asked to do an assignment. They misinterpreted the assignment and it came out that way. But that's the time where it's like you have to educate people because you don't
Mhm.
know. Yeah. So like and it's not annoying. It's just like that's when you know that's like okay, this didn't come out of malice. It's just you don't understand and you need someone to
Yeah.
like explain it to you
Yeah. A lack
kind
of
of thing.
understanding.
Yeah. And again, like that's where we go back to the conversation about perfectionism. I mean, like we're all humans. We make mistakes. Um, so me as a human, I'm not going to hold you to a different standard.
Yeah.
I understand that like it may not come out of a bad place. You just don't know. And
Mhm.
so it's like it's you just have to explain it. And so it's seeing past the action and just treating everyone like a human. We all make mistakes. It happens.
Mhm. Hmm. What kinda impact do you wanna have on others?
Um, I think that's a loaded.
It's a
I
loaded,
think just
many multi-dimensional question, but
yeah. I think I was playing this question through my head and how I was going to
mhm.
answer. Um, a reminder that life is beautiful. That no matter what you go through, you can still appreciate life. You can still enjoy life. If times are hard, there are better times ahead. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. And I lead my life. I was having a conversation with someone like right before we got on. It's
Mm,
like I live my life to take the negative experiences that I have and use them for good. And that part is, reminding people that life
yeah,
is precious. And that's the impact that I hope I have, showing everyone that like all you can do is just be human,
yeah,
learn from your experiences and keep going.
yeah. I don't know if you are religious at all, but what you just said, overcoming bad stuff and, replacing it with good. So literally a Bible verse that I read yesterday. I would like to share it if you want me to, but, it comes from Romans chapter 12, verse 21. It just you pretty much quoted it. It says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So it's like, dude, you're so on par with kind of what this whole theme was today of just like, regardless of the trials you face, no matter the evil you like eventually like have in your life, whether you're going through it now or whether you're going through it later in life, you don't know. Things are just going to happen and they're going to hit you.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're able to take a bad situation, and sure, it took a while for you to come out on top of it. The way that you're able to carry yourself, the way that you're able to just conduct a conversation, like I can tell the way we are talking right now, I can tell that you're using your past experience to just tell people like, hey, I've done this and this was super hard. So you can get through your hard time. You can go do what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think it's also coming from the spot where, like, I was also at the point in life where I was not doing everything that I'm preaching. I was
Yeah.
struggling through life.
Yep.
I was going through a lot, and sure, I was, like, piecing it by,
Hmm.
but, like, I learned the lesson the hard way. No one should have to learn the lesson the hard way,
Right.
but, you know, there's still so much you can do, even if you're in a hard position. And so that's the main thing. Is it will always be there, and things happen, so it's just appreciating what you can, do what you can,
Hmm.
and keep going.
Yeah. Um, One more question for some of my listeners out there. I have quite a few friends that are going through an illness right now or have had an injury recently. What kind of advice would you give somebody in those trying times?
I think that's hard. I first would want them to hear that what they're going through is normal. It is hard, but, like, other people are going through hard things, and they're not alone in that. But that if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you will start to understand where the world in a different way. It doesn't, it can be hard right now, but it won't always be hard.
Mhm.
And some days you might be lost and you may be like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how this is getting better. And some days you just have to rely on the smallest things. Whatever gets you out of bed, that's what matters. All that matters is you get out of bed. You keep fighting. So like I said, like, if you learned how to put on a sock one day, it's like use that. That's your motivation to keep going. And it's obviously like it's very easy for me to say. It's very different and very difficult if you're going through that situation. And that's why I also like to preface it with, like, you're not alone. People have always been through that stuff. And you can always go to other people with support. And that's truly, it's just about keep going. Find your purpose. Find motivation to keep going to the next day. I mean, there are many days where it's like, don't know how I made it here. I did, and it was because I kept putting one foot in from the other,
Yep.
focused on small goals that I could reach.
Hmm.
And some days, hope is all you have, and hope will
Yeah.
get you through.
Yeah.
Mm. And so, even though I say it, and it's very easy to say, and it's hard to do, but good days are around the corner. Nothing bad lasts forever.
Yeah. Dark times never actually stay. They never stick.
Yeah, and it's where you learn from those things. You learn about who you are as a person. You learn about the
Hmm.
situation you're in. You're like you learn so much. And that's anything. Like that's with physical illness, that's with injuries, that's with mental health. Even if you're lost, just putting one foot in front of the other, doing what you can is
Yeah.
better than doing nothing.
All right, Ben. Everybody give it up for Ben Iammartino, man. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. It's been a blessing just to have you on. Um, just from our conversation alone, I can tell you're gonna do great stuff. And
I appreciate it.
I'm gonna try and keep in contact with you. Maybe we could meet in person soon. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'd love to work out with you, bro. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, bro. I really appreciate your insights. And I probably not the first person to say this, but I really look up to you, man. After knowing you for a good, we've been on this call for about an hour and 15 minutes. Like, I already looked up to you, bro. Already look up to
I
you. So,
appreciate it. It means a lot.
of course, man.